There is a familiar and deeply frustrating way of speaking used by struggling basketball coaches and nervous sports executives across the world. It is the language of avoiding responsibility. It relies on empty buzzwords, safe political phrasing, and carefully crafted public relations lines that often underestimate the intelligence of fans. When a coaching staff makes a clear and obvious tactical mistake on a global stage, they rarely step forward and admit it. They do not face the cameras and acknowledge that their outdated ideas were exposed. Instead, they try to shift the narrative. They present a mix of terms like chemistry, rotations, and sample sizes in an effort to defend what cannot be defended. If you are looking for a clear example of this kind of behavior, you only need to watch the official post-game press conference following the United States national team's 84-7 victory over Spain in the FIFA World Cup qualifying championship game. The title of this breakdown speaks for itself. Interim head coach Nate Tibbetts stood at the podium and offered a series of explanations for benching Caitlin Clark that come across as professionally embarrassing. Today, we're going to take a close and honest look at that press conference. We will remove the polished language, break down the real tactical situation against Spain's defense, and reveal why Team USA leadership appears stuck because of internal politics. Let's begin by setting the scene. Just 48 hours before this championship game, the Team USA coaching staff finally gave in to what seemed obvious. They put Caitlin Clark into the starting lineup against New Zealand. The outcome was a 55-point win. It was a smooth and overwhelming display of offensive speed and control. Clark made every shot from inside the arc, controlled the tempo, and posted an impressive plus 24 rating. The strategy worked perfectly. The ideal starting lineup had been found. And yet, when it was time to face a disciplined Spanish national team in the championship game, the coaching staff hesitated. They returned to their previous approach. They placed their most dangerous offensive player on the bench. From the very first moments of the game, the results of that decision were immediately clear. Now listen closely to Nate Tibbetts' own words as he describes how the game began.
This was our fifth game in I think 7 days, just like everybody else. They had a disappointing loss last game, and they came out and set the tone. They played a bunch of zone against us. I thought as the game went on, we did a better job with the zone, but give them credit. And then also,
I want every basketball fan watching this to stop for a moment and really take in what the interim head coach just acknowledged. Spain opened the game playing zone defense. In international basketball, a zone is used for a very clear purpose. Teams rely on it when they know they cannot keep up with you in man-to-man matchups. They protect the paint. They shut down driving lanes. They build a wall around the basket and challenge you to beat them from the outside. It puts your shooting discipline and spacing under pressure. Now, if you are a head coach and you recognize that your opponent is using a zone to crowd the paint, what is the obvious and proven counter? You put your best and most dangerous perimeter shooter on the court. You use the player whose presence alone can stretch and break the structure of that defense. By keeping Caitlin Clark on the bench against a zone, Nate Tibbetts made a serious tactical mistake. When you rely on traditional attacking wings and slower half-court guards against a packed European zone, you are playing right into the opponent's strategy. Spain's defense looked comfortable early because they did not have to worry about deep shooting range. They stayed inside, closed off passing lanes, and forced the American offense into a slow, disconnected struggle. Tibbetts admitted that Spain controlled the tone early. They were only able to do that because Team USA chose to leave their most important tone setter on the bench. It is like leaving your umbrella behind in the middle of a storm just to test if your raincoat is enough. It comes down to pure stubbornness. But the most uncomfortable moment of this press conference came when a reporter gave the coach a chance to highlight the top performers of the tournament. The question almost pushed Tibbetts to recognize the clear impact of the young stars who led in the statistics. Instead of giving proper credit, he responded with an explanation that stands out as one of the worst coaching sound bites.
I don't think I was surprised or disappointed by anyone. I think everyone, they played like who they are, in my opinion. I think part of our challenge as a coaching staff is just looking at different lineups, and I think that's why you saw us change the units as the games went on. And I think as the competition gets better, as you start to move forward, that's why you need those sample sizes and things that you've looked at.
Sample sizes. He benched the tournament leader in total points and total assists in a championship game because he claimed he needed sample sizes. Let's break down the logic behind that statement. Experiments are meant for training camp. You gather sample sizes during closed-door scrimmages. You do not treat a championship game in an FIA World Cup qualifying tournament against the second-best team in your bracket like it is a school experiment. On top of that, what sample size was still missing? The coaching staff already had enough evidence. They had seen the veteran-heavy starting lineup in the first 2 games, and it produced slow, clunky basketball. They had also seen Caitlin Clark start against New Zealand, which led to a 55-point dominant performance. The information was already there. The conclusion had already been proven. When a coach uses the term sample size to explain why a generational player is on the bench, what he really means is this: we are afraid of disrupting the internal hierarchy of this locker room. So we will keep rotating players to make sure the veterans get their expected minutes, even if it hurts the team's performance. It becomes a bureaucratic cover meant to hide weak leadership. And if you need more evidence of this internal hierarchy, you can look at what veteran Kelsey Plum said during the same press conference. She was asked about how the young stars Caitlin Clark, Paige Buchers, and Angel Reese were being brought into the team. Her answer reflected a subtle but clear tone of passive-aggressive veteran messaging.
Obviously, technically, they're young, but they played in a lot of big games and big stages before, so they're not afraid of this moment. I think Team USA, everyone, I think, did an incredible job of just figuring out how to pick their spots. Obviously, you want to be aggressive and be yourself. Coach talks about that, be yourself, but also be yourself within the team dynamic. And, it's all a learning.
Be yourself within the team structure. Learn when to take your moments. Now, translate that into what it really means inside a basketball locker room. Pick your spots is a phrase experienced veterans often use when they want a young star to step back and defer to them. It is a way of saying, we understand you can shoot from 30 feet and make full-court passes, but we want you to slow the game down, give the ball to the veterans, and wait your turn on the perimeter. You do not say that to a player with the rare court vision that Caitlin Clark brings. You do not ask a player who can reshape an entire defense to simply fit into an existing system. Instead, you adjust the system to get the most out of her unique abilities. When you force Caitlin Clark into a slow, controlled, veteran-driven half-court offense, you take away what makes her special. Team USA seems to treat her like just another piece, when in reality, she is the centerpiece. They prefer her as a role player who occasionally hits a deep shot, instead of the main playmaker who controls the rhythm of the game. And Kelsey Plum continued to support this protective, limiting viewpoint when she was asked about veterans stepping up in key moments against Spain. Kahleah Copper ended the game with 20 points, while Plum added 18. When the reporter brought up this veteran scoring performance, Plum responded using one of the most common phrases in basketball culture.
Ka, I remember, that gold medal game, Ka had a massive impact in winning that game, right? And she's someone that's not afraid of the moment. Same with Chelsea, same with Jack, Dearica. Obviously, we've won together, so there's a different level of chemistry. And, when we talk about chemistry, that's, I think, the biggest factor personally playing in these games because, a lot of these teams get an opportunity to practice with each other, play with each other year round, and we are kind of playing against each other, and then we kind of get put in a situation where it's high stakes, high pressure, and you really have to form that chemistry. So those moments where you can kind of reflect back to those behind the back passes that Chelsea makes and stuff, people are going to be in those certain times. It's just because we've had years of.
It is the go-to excuse for a system that is not working. Plum suggests the veterans finish the game because of their shared experiences. But if we look at what actually happened against Spain's zone defense, that claim does not hold up. That so-called chemistry led to a slow, messy, and vulnerable first half, where the United States struggled to create separation. It forced Kahleah Copper into difficult, energy-draining isolation plays just to beat the shot clock. What truly disrupted the Spanish defense was not veteran chemistry. It was the clear playmaking presence of the 22-year-old point guard coming off the bench. Looking at the official box score from the 84-70 win, Caitlin Clark played 22 minutes and scored 7 points. Critics will point to that and say she struggled. But they overlook another key part of the stat sheet. She recorded 7 assists, leading the team in playmaking and committed just 1 turnover. While the veterans relied on tough, contested shots, Caitlin Clark carefully broke down the Spanish zone. She drew double teams, controlled defensive movement with her vision, and created open shots for her teammates, including easy layups and clean corner threes. The veterans finished the plays, but Caitlin Clark was the one creating them. She produced the quality opportunities that the veteran-heavy approach could not generate on its own. This press conference reflects a much larger issue within women's basketball. It shows a long-standing hierarchy that appears uneasy about a unique talent stepping into the spotlight. The coaching staff seems hesitant to fully trust her, as it would mean admitting their slower systems no longer work. The veterans seem cautious about embracing her pace, as it could shift control away from them. So instead, they rely on explanations. They mention sample sizes and choosing the right moments. They keep her on the bench in key games and present it as strategy. But those explanations are starting to lose credibility. The FIA World Cup qualifying tournament has ended. The international exhibition period is finished. The next time Caitlin Clark plays at the professional level, it will not be for Team USA, and she will not be under the direction of an interim coach trying to balance veteran expectations. She will be wearing an Indiana Fever jersey. And when the much-anticipated WNBA season begins, there will be no more talk about testing lineups. There will be no more limited off-ball roles. She will be given full control of a professional team. The rest of the league, including experienced players and coaches who believe they can contain her, is about to face a clear reality. When a player with this level of offensive skill is given full freedom and placed in a system that supports her speed and shooting range, the impact will be overwhelming. Team USA tried to limit her influence, yet she still led the tournament in assists. Imagine what will happen when she is fully unleashed. Thank you for being here and breaking down the real strategy behind the headlines. We are here to move past surface-level explanations and focus on what actually happens on the court. We do not accept empty coaching language, and we look at the game through real performance and results. If you want direct, honest, and detailed basketball analysis, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was Nate Tibbetts' sample size explanation the most questionable coaching response of the year? And will Team USA's veteran core eventually give Caitlin Clark control of the offense by the time the Olympics arrive? I will see you in the next breakdown.